Welcome to Jurassic World.
Welcome to Jurassic World Minute, where we visit Jurassic World 1 minute at a time. Don't we all partake in some mad science? I'm Brad.
And Dave.
And on this episode we're discussing Minute 53 of Jurassic World. Before we get to that, David, returning back to Jurassic-Pedia.com and to the Gyrosphere article on there, quite a lengthy article, and each time we have gyrospheres on screen, we go back to it to discuss different things. Going down the article a bit, there's a bit more detail here on the gyrospheres. Top speed of 5 miles per hour, but going in manual driving mode they can go a little bit faster, and we do see in these next couple of minutes the gyrosphere out running with the herd, so to speak, able to not keep up, but not get in the way of some running Triceratops in it as well. So yeah, nice article here, lot to go through, lot to read, so head over to Jurassic-Pedia.com for that and many more.
What purpose could we have for a dinosaur that can camouflage?
Cuttlefish genes were added to help her withstand an accelerated growth rate. Cuttlefish have chromatophores that allow the skin to change color.
It hid from thermal technology.
Really?
Before we get into today's minute, we got some feedback over on the Facebook page. I posted up some of the concept art for the gyrospheres towards the end of the year, and Lorenzo asked a very important question. How do the occupants breathe? We do sort of get that hissing close as the doors close, whether that's because they're air operated or what, but it's it'd
Good
be quite
question,
hot.
Yeah. And we even comes back in Fallen Kingdom, because the they get into the gyrosphere and then they plop into the water, and they seem pretty airtight until the lava starts burning holes in them, and then Owen shoots it to kind of force more equalization of pressure inside.
Yeah, well, that's one of the big talked about things. We're going to get it next in minute 54 with Jimmy Fallon suggesting that a 50 cal cannot penetrate the oxynitrate glass, I think they call it. Yet in Fallen Kingdom a 9mm can.
But yeah, I mean, how do they breathe? It's honestly kind of an ill-conceived vehicle in general, just because, and I can't remember if we really talked about it at last minute, if we saved it for this minute. Kind of an ill-conceived vehicle, because, I mean, like we discussed in minute 51, the entire thing just kind of, I mean, for one, like Lorenzo brought up, how do you breathe? But the other is, I mean, like we discussed, what about dino poop? I'm sure the glass gets really dirty really fast, and it's, I mean, give me the cushy plush leather seats of a Ford Explorer any day.
Yeah, and just to end out on the Fallen Kingdom debate before we get angry emails, yes, it has been suggested the fact that the gyrosphere is 5 years old or 4 years old and been left out in the elements. That's why the glass isn't as strong. But we've talked before with behind the scenes stuff in Jurassic Park, the fact they had those screens over the perspex bubbles in the Explorers just to help with lighting and the heat, the tropical heat coming through that big bubble. And here you've got a big round ball. you got to think that sunlight's a convex ball. It's that sunlight's going to focus in. Not quite as powerful as a magnifying glass, but definitely there's got to be some sort of air conditioning. Yeah.
Well, I mean, not only that, but I mean, it's like I said, or like we're bringing up, it's air sealed, so there's no airflow, and you're basically gonna bake. It's like being in a giant plexiglass oven. How do you like your park guests? Rare or medium rare?
I was going to say, by the time the IREX gets the boys out there, that'd be well done. It's one of those things when Steven Spielberg comes up with an idea and presents it to you to say, hey, I'd love to see these in your film. No, you're not going to tell Steven, no, Steven, that's not a good idea. We'll let the engineers, or as Jimmy says, the scientists work out how it's all going to work. But we'll get into more of that in 54. Dave, ready to get into 53?
Yeah.
Alright, opens with Masrani shutting Wu down, ends with the Jimmy Fallon instructional video. As we had in minute 52, Masrani had shut Wu down, and as we open on 53, Wu looks at his research in the researchers in the next room before addressing Masrani again. You're acting like we're all engaged in some kind of mad science. But we are doing what we've done from the beginning.
I mean, but they kind of are engaging in a mad science here. I mean, let's be honest here. The entire kind of concept of Jurassic Park harkens a lot back to the novel Frankenstein. I mean, there's a lot of comparisons that can be made between the two. So,
I think for most that step from just doing dinosaur DNA and adding some stuff to it to complete the sequence gaps and that to create the animal, and what Wu's doing here now, where he's just splicing everything together, and then what we see later in his lab as well with all the two-headed animals and that sort of stuff, that is mad science. Mm-hmm. And he's wearing.
Well, to be fair, I think that the two-headed animals were actually, those were all real animals with, like, I mean, I forget what it's called, like dicrania syndrome or something like that, but I mean that's something that actually happens in nature.
Yeah, we'll have to talk more when we get to those minutes. I wonder if that's meant to show him, if he's meant to show that he'd actually created those animals, or if he's sort of using those animals to weed out defects that maybe he might be getting in some of the dinosaurs as well.
Yeah, it's called polycephaly.
Oh, yeah. Also happens in humans, if I remember rightly, too.
It does, yeah.
Yeah. But I love how Henry sort of looks around and laughs here. And says nothing in Jurassic World is natural. We've always filled in the gaps with in the genome with the DNA of other animals, and their genetic code was pure. If their genetic code was pure, many of them would look quite different. But you didn't ask for reality; you asked for more teeth. So again, a bit more of that dialogue. More so, maybe trying to explain why the dinosaurs have looked different across the franchise, and why they haven't got feathers yet.
That is kind of a line that has kind of bugged me since, though, because while it is true and it's kind of a final in-universe acknowledgement of the fact that they're genetically engineering these animals to be visually different than what they actually should look like, it's unfortunately been caught up in the fandom as becoming a kind of catch-all explanation for why they could never have realistic dinosaurs, or why they can, or why the dinosaurs shouldn't ever be different, or why they have no potential to be different. It's just, it's not. He didn't say that they can't be different in the future. He's just saying, this is why we've not made them. This is why we've never made them paleontologically accurate in the past. And I think there's a lot of people who take that line and kind of run with it. And when you discuss like Dominion and say, "I'd like to see feathered dinosaurs," people are like, "Oh, well, they're not real dinosaurs. They're just animals that have they come and bring in this explanation," and it's just not a catch-all explanation. You know?
Yeah. Personally, too, it sort of it takes the majesty or the the fondness out of the previous films, like back in Jurassic Park, where Dr. Grant's laying across a Triceratops zone. It was his favourite when he was a kid. Now she's the most beautiful thing he's ever seen. Like, that's because that's at the time, as accurate a depiction of the Triceratops as they thought they could do, and that's what we've grown up with. That's what a Triceratops looks like. Only for we to come in and say, no, well, that's not what it. Triceratops wasn't like that because we made it different, or we didn't make it natural looking. But then you get the raptors and everything that change every film, and we're going to get some other herbivores in the next couple of minutes.
Well, again, I mean, it's another thing where it goes back to, just as we discuss often with Jay, that, I mean, yeah, nothing in Jurassic World is natural, but at the same time, you didn't have to take some of the dinosaur designs and go backwards with them. Like, I mean, you could have made dinosaurs that looked more like how they did in the first 3 movies. You didn't have to take the Stegosaurus and make it a tail dragger, for example.
Yeah, you took the work that Crash had done, and then you took the next step. You didn't learn to draw them yourself. Yeah, and also the line too, you didn't ask for reality, you asked for more teeth. We do get teeth in the Stegosaur, don't we, in Fallen Kingdom? Oh, no, that was the Galmons discussing in Galmon's Valley. Yeah. So, yeah, you took that and literally ran with it and even put teeth in the herbivores as well.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he's just taking these designs that were already, their fans were not only nostalgic for, but in universe really kind of makes little sense because they're just taking them and going backwards with them instead of having, say, the Lost World Stegosaurus design, or in Fallen Kingdom it gets even worse where they have lips. It's just, why?
Yeah. We're going to get more of this when we get to minute 54 and 55 and the animals in the valley and what some of them look like. Masrani retorts with, "I never asked for a monster," and this might be one of my favourite lines in the actual film. A monster is a relative term. To a canary, a cat is a monster. We're just used to being the cat, which pretty much spells out everything for this film. Just we're used to being on top, and the Indominus is going to come and show us that no, we're not really.
I mean, I'm kind of love-hate with that, just because I know, like, a lot of times the Jurassic Park dinosaurs get lumped into being movie monsters, and I really never cared for it, just because, I mean, the whole intent of the first 3 movies with Spielberg and David Koepp and all the people who were behind them, especially like Stevenson Studios, was to not create movie monsters. The whole intent was to bring animals that, as Spielberg put it, we had a monster movie on our hands. The real trick was not to make one. The dinosaurs had, up until Jurassic Park, been historically portrayed on film as these movie monsters, going as far back as the 1926 Lost World. They just basically fight, eat, poop, and that's it. They didn't actually just live. I mean, what I think the magic about Jurassic Park and the Lost World, and even a bit Jurassic Park 3, was they had these animals that they create animals out of them. Oh, the T-Rex isn't just stomping towards you. The reality is that they're sniffing for their infant's blood. That's why it's after you. It's these they give you reasoning behind these animals, and they kind of, I don't want to say sympathize with them, but you make them understand them. It's kind of the difference between, say, the movie, the schlocky 70s B movie Grizzly, and a public, I'm trying to think, without using the local name, a PBS nature documentary. Mm-hmm. If anybody watches like Nature or Nova, you'd know what I mean. It portrayed bears as actual animals. They live, breathe, fight, they live, eat, fight, but they also they bear young, they're good parents, they prepare for the world around them. They react to the world around them. And I think that was what was great about the first three movies, is that these dinosaurs reacted to the world around them. With the Indominus, or particularly the Jurassic World films, you kind of get less like that. You kind of get, with some of the animals, a step further to becoming anthropomorphized, where they are kind of almost portrayed as human-like characters. But on the other end of the spectrum, you get these kind of tragic Frankenstein monster figures like the Indominus Rex and the Indoraptor. And I think portraying the Indominus Rex as a tragic figure and not so much as like a weaponized killing machine kind of, it helped and hurt it, because a lot of fans felt sympathy for it. But at the same time, I think the Indoraptor did it better by being a bloodlusting killing machine, by becoming the actual monster Wu talks about here.
Yeah, it's sort of, especially with Jurassic Park and the Lost World, it's the dinosaurs being dinosaurs. You drop a steer into a pack of raptors and they just tear it apart. And obviously, I dare say, if those trees weren't there, you'd see them sort of snipping and biting at each other as well, fighting for that food. Mm-hmm. You've mentioned before the Tyrannosaur coming out in the breakout. It's coming out because it's interested in what these cars are and all that sort of stuff. It's essentially playing with them when she rolls the Explorer 4 over. So, and we do get a little bit of that in Jurassic Park 3 with the Spinosaurus, because that's what they, at the time, they wanted to have a new big bad to sort of take out the T-Rex, and they had to do some magic with the Spinosaur to get it to be able to do that. So, but especially too, as we said, with the Indominus not being an actual dinosaur, it does fit that monster role a lot more than if they just had Rexy here once again going off wild across the island. But we'll get more of that in Fallen Kingdom and Camp Cretaceous Season 2. Let's hope. Yeah. But that's Wu's lab. We cut back to Gyrosphere Valley and nice, beautiful open field. Again, Hawaii looking fantastic. As the camera comes closer to the boys' gyrosphere, we cut inside and see a small screen at the front of the console. On it, we get the start of an instructional video, but I don't think this is the start. I think there's been some stuff played, and I'll get more to that in the novelisation. Hello there, I'm Jimmy Fallon. Welcome aboard the Gyrosphere, an amazing machine made possible by science. And he's wearing a lab coat, looking like he's at the front of science class. And I do like that the chalk wireframe schematic of the Gyrosphere on the board behind him. It's very Doc Brown. But science. Is the Gyrosphere possible by science, or is it possible by technology and engineers?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think anybody has ever really attempted to really look at it, as far as I know.
Because you have a look at a gyroscope, that's technology, that's not science. Oh, I suppose it could be science as well.
Science and technology kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, and it's one of those like one wheels and that sort of stuff. That's all centrifugal force with one tire, and that's keeping it upright. But one interesting little bit of trivia here too, in real life, Jimmy Fallon appears in all the promotional videos at Universal Studios theme parks, which is, of course, those television screens that get shown to guests while they're waiting for lines at rides. So, and his talk shows owned by NBC Universal as well, so that's probably why he's here and not someone else.
I didn't really like the cameo just because of that reason. Like, I mean, for one, it's kind of because I don't think Jimmy Fallon's that funny. And the other, because, I mean, yes, we know Jurassic Park is owned by Universal, which is owned by NBC. We don't really need a reminder of it. It just seemed really kind of not well done.
I'll add another angle as well. I should have looked at the box office, but probably maybe a quarter of that nearly $2 billion this film made was the US audience. Everything else was international. I haven't seen Jimmy Fallon. I don't know. This is the only thing I've seen him in, so I've got no It's almost the same as going back to Richard Kiley in Jurassic Park. I had no idea who he is. I still don't really know who he is. It's just a famous,
be fair with
good
you,
voice.
I don't know who he is either.
Well, thank you, John Hammond.
I don't think I've ever actually seen him in anything. Why that was kind of a deserved of a mention, I'm still not sure. But yeah, I don't know who Richard Kiley is.
I just always assumed he's not talk show, but either has a radio or voiceover or something like that, because it is you hear that voice and you know exactly who it is, maybe. But same here with Jimmy Fallon. It's like this could have been Eddie Murphy. It could have been any comedian coming out of SNL or anything. As I said before, because he's already on Universal's payroll. That's probably why they said, "Hey, let's get this comedian in to do this and some cringeworthy stuff here." But he continues. Your safety is our main concern, which is why you're behind our invisible barrier system, which protects you from things like Dilophosaurus venom. And that's when he turns and he hits over some chemicals with his poking stick and causes a small explosion. Some of the goop pops onto his face. Name drop for the Dilophosaur here. It's the first time we get it dropped in the film. We get the hologram later on. Is there an attraction? Is it in the restricted zone? Where's the Dilophosaurus? Why is it mentioned here?
So many good questions. And it's really kind of a sin. I mean, we have not gotten a Dilophosaurus scene since 1993. And I know I don't count the cameo in either this movie or Fallen Kingdom.
No.
I want the actual animal on screen in the physical form.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yep. And we heard the hoot in Fallen Kingdom. There was the cutscene with it on the boat, supposedly on the Arcadia. So it's going to turn up unannounced in Dominion. I can see it now. But I'm hoping Camp Cretaceous maybe explains a little bit more of where it is, even though we haven't got any hints that it's actually going to be in the season, in season 2.
Maybe they're saving it as a surprise. maybe that's just a hopeful fan in me.
Yeah. But you know, as soon as it turns up, we're going to be like, okay, how did it get off the island? All this stuff, even though we know about that cutscene. It's going to be Colin just coming out. Oh, I was on the boat. You just didn't see it, or something like that. Even though we don't see it leaving the Lockwood estate either. Anyway, maybe it was still on the boat and never got released. Jimmy continues, one drop of this can paralyse you, so watch out. And then he stands there with goo on his face and smiles at the camera for a moment, then sort of breaks character and looks off the screen to someone asking, is this real? And we get a pause and he says it is, and then suddenly topples over and collapses to the ground. And this is probably where the humour reaches its peak for me in this little video. But it's acting a little bit quicker here than what we've seen in the past. And it's taking more from the novel, where it paralyses you through the skin, turning it red and inflamed. Whereas in Jurassic Park, it sort of only really got on the edge of his face, and once he climbed into the Jeep and he wiped it off his eyes, he seemed to be okay about it. But
to be fair, I doubt it was actually real venom.
No. Because especially it's all in different beakers, and the explosion combines and throws it on his face, so I don't think they'd have, unless they're milking Dilophosaur, I don't think they'd actually have venom anyway. But that is one thing to clarify as well. Poison is a toxic that gets into the body via swallowing, inhaling, or absorption through the skin. Venom is a specialised type of poison that is evolved for a specific purpose, and it is actively injected via a bite or a sting. So technically, Dilophosaurus poison and not venomous.
I know that this has kind of been a point of debate between like the more biologically and paleontologically minded fans of whether or not that the venom is actually real venom or whether it should be counted as a poison, because the inspiration behind it is the spitting cobra, which actually spits venom into its target's eyes, which does blind them, allowing it to attack. And so that's kind of what it's done here. But it's also mentioned that it has to be that the venom can be absorbed through the skin, which it would make it a poison. So it's kind of like, is it a venomous poison? Is it a poisonous venom? It's toxic.
Yeah,
You know that. Don't eat it.
I'll throw you under a bus here. Do you know if the spitting cobra, does that venom get ejected from its fangs or its throat? It's got a little gland at the top of its throat, doesn't it?
I think it's the fangs. It's got little holes in the fangs that spit it out at the target.
So it could still be, or is still venom, because it can inject, if it does bite you, it's going to inject the venom as well. It's just got the extra ability to be able to spit it from a distance as well. Mm-hmm. And we know more so from the novel too that the animals, the compies, had the serotonin, the bite, that sort of paralysed, which would make that a venom as well, not a poison. But because even Richard Kiley says poison.
He says both, I think.
Yeah. Spitting venom at its prey. Yeah.
And he also says that we now know that it's poisonous.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, David Kep, for that dialogue. It can be either either. Let's just leave it at that. But as the minute ends, we take cut to Zach as he's looking away from the screen. Obviously, these kids aren't getting the humour put forward by Jimmy Fallon here on screen.
To be fair, neither do I. Jay Leno was better.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get more of it next minute as well. Anything else on that before we get to novel comparisons?
No, I think we padded that out pretty well.
All right. As the gyrosphere leaves the station, Zach puts his hand on the joystick ready to drive, and that's when the screen lights up with the instructional video of a funny man dressed in a khaki safari outfit. Hello, I was just doing a little predator tracking, hobby of mine. I bet you're wondering how to drive this thing. Maybe I can help. So that's what I was saying before. I reckon what we've seen with Jimmy Fallon's not the star of the video, because obviously you need to show the guests how to drive the gyrosphere. The gyrosphere attendants just pushing a button and let them go, but you need to know the ins and outs of driving it before you need to know about the dome and the gyroscope and everything else.
Mm-hmm. Does Jimmy Fallon actually get name dropped in the junior novelization, or
no? We just get the.
I'm wondering that if it was intended to be Jimmy Fallon or another comedian, and Universal just hadn't figured out which comedian they're going to get to do the video yet, so they didn't name drop him in the junior novelization.
Yeah, well, just a funny man dressed in a khaki safari outfit, which I reckon would be more cringy seeing someone doing their not so much a Steve Irwin impression, but I'm hunting for predators out in the jungle. Oh, hello, maybe I can help you drive the gyrosphere while I'm at it. Just
hello and welcome to Jumanji.
I was about to do that. The kids hate when I do that. I do it all the time.
That was my first thought when you said man dressed in safari outfit.
Yeah. The video showed how the controls worked. The gyroscopic technology means you can always stay upright, the narrator explained. In an animation, the gyrosphere got too close to a dinosaur. A red circle blinked around the gyrosphere and the dinosaur backed off. All good news for bad drivers. Our invisible barrier system will make sure you don't get into an accident. And that's when Zach comments, that sucks. You can't even hit him.
Bumper spheres.
Yeah, which we've mentioned before. You have teenage children, teenage boys in these things, and they're going to get up to trouble, get up to mischief.
Kind of curious how that invisible system would work, though. I mean, is it magnetized so that they don't really bump into each other, kind of like when you do the reverse sides of a magnet?
That's each gyrosphere.
Well, so they don't bump into each other.
Oh, could you imagine the inertia? Dodgem cars have rubber all the way around them. Can you imagine two gyrospheres hitting each other at 5 miles an hour, or hitting a stationary one at 5 miles an hour? We can see inside they've got the seat belts, like your 4-point racing seat belts on, but that would really give you some whiplash.
Yeah.
And as we see next minute, I don't know how well the invisible barrier system with the dinosaurs is working, because they get pretty close to some of the animals without any alarms going off or anything. But yeah, as I said before, I'm pretty sure a lot of what's been described here would have already been shown to the boys before we cut to the Jimmy Fallon video. Because especially like how quickly or how regularly they're leaving the gyrosphere station, it's probably a good thing it is built on the side of the hill, so they leave the little bit of trackway and then just roll downhill away from where the next one's going to be coming behind it. But you can just imagine it'd be like a pile of marbles at the bottom of the valley where they've all been let out of the station, and they're just all
which might be where the system that prevents bumping into things comes in.
Yeah,
it's kind of like a ski lift, you know.
Yeah.
Except instead of crowding around the bottom of the ski lift, the gyrospheres are magnetized in a way so that they kind of line up orderly instead of just kind of smashing into each other at the bottom of the hill.
There's a Blues Brothers style pile of gyrospheres at the bottom of the hill where they've all come down on top of each other. But there might be some sort of like active cruise control sort of thing in them too. Like if someone is coming up behind you really fast, that one would slow down on its own, and the other one would speed up a little bit on its own as well, just to again try and keep that distance between each other. Which is a shame, because once we get the boys out in the valley here, we don't see another gyrosphere anywhere, which is something interesting as well. I didn't include in the notes, but
yeah, it is kind of interesting that there isn't that we never see another gyrosphere in this entire valley, because we saw a long line of people at that station.
Yeah, and the monitor in the control room says there's 48 either gyrospheres or gyrosphere users currently out in the valley. You'd think...
True, but also remember that there was that call back for them to return. But that was kind of automatic, because we see Zach and Gray get the attention the ride is closed alert on the gyrosphere, and I would imagine that would be something that's automatic.
Well, we get more into that next minute, but that happens after they go frolicking through the herd as well. So you'd think
exactly, yeah.
There's even a scene there where they get the announcement next minute, and you do see a couple of gyrospheres turn and start heading in the same direction or something, and that's when he goes, "No, we're going to go stay out for a little bit longer," and goes the opposite direction. That's all I've got for minute 53 before we get out of here today.
All right.